All right, investors. Hey, welcome back. Woo! Last night was my second or third night ever since I started this channel. I actually got to rest, and rest felt good. But guess what? That means I don't come back with a double energy, and I hope you're ready. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. I don't know you're trying to get to work and you're trying to get some things done. So I'm going to go ahead and make this happen. I got to get to work too, but don't tell nobody, okay? But we're going to make this happen. Some of the craziest conversations that's going on in the street. Let's see here. The Cleveland Browns got an opportunity to get John Harbaugh. Somebody's bringing up Bill Belichick name. Don't want him. But I also do like Brian Flores. So we should see. If this is your first Tony Talks Vested Up, there's no graphics. There's no videos. We just talking over a slower, fast beat just to get our point across. Because sometimes that's all we have time to do, just to talk and put the information out there. But Taylor's wife put out there on social media a couple days ago. And I'm definitely going to bring that up. But on a serious note, I want to talk about this. The Sheduer Sanders situation in Cleveland Browns, at the Cleveland Brown organization, the NFL team, I got to put that out there. Even though they're considered an entertainment business and industry, you still have laws and protocols to follow. And what happened this year regarding Sheduer Sanders was egregious. I hope everyone involved in the Cleveland Browns organization, the 53-man roster, anybody else that was depending on the success of the Cleveland Browns this year, I hope each and every one of them file a grievance. I hope they start filing paperwork right now. Do you know how many young men on that team that we didn't know about, that was on that sideline, that didn't get an opportunity to play, or contracts have been impacted, or conditionals that were in their contract based off stats that could have got them and their family additional bonuses? I know that happens because each team that's going to the playoff this week here, starting this week here, bonuses. And if they would have just did right by Sheduer Sanders and the organization, let's just start scratching that. If they would have just did right by the organization and put Sheduer Sanders out there as QB1, at least QB2, because I do agree with the fact that even Sheduer Sanders said it took time to get familiar with the NFL, the pass rushes, the speeds, the schemes, complex schemes, exotic schemes. He did say that. So if they would have brought in Joe Flacco for that bridge for the first 4 to 5 games and then let Sheduer Sanders get his feet wet on November 9th, against the Jets, that would have been a perfect opportunity. But of course, they didn't do that. So what they did do, they created all of this unnecessary drama, stress. 9 months later, it hadn't even been a year yet. Do you think Kevin Stefanski really thought in 9 months after that draft that he would be unemployed? You know he didn't. But all of the young men that we didn't know about, don't know their name. Do you know who was counting on this year to be productive? They may only have 1-year contract, 2-year contract. Those young men have probably lost an opportunity to live out their dream in the NFL. We have to consider the whole entire 50-man roster, even the ones that signed up and helped Kevin Stefanski allegedly sabotage Sheduer or inflict pain, mental abuse. Now mental abuse, I'm not going to say allegedly on that because this definitely was a mental abuse in what they did against Sheduer Sanders. But do you know all the other players that were impacted indirectly, mentally, physically, financially in this situation here? Some of those young men could have only been on their roster for 1 year. But because how things played out, their lives have been impacted. Their families have been impacted. Their careers have been impacted. Let's talk about the players that had a 2-year contract. 1 year is gone. I would say that the players that are somewhat comfortable at this point is the players that have 3 to 4 to 5 years still on their contract. But still, 1 year is gone. Who's not to say that there was a clause in their contract that say, at the end of this contract, based off your production through each year, your bonuses will be X, Y, and Z, this percentage, this percentage, this percentage. everyone on the Cleveland Browns except Myles Garrett and whatever allegedly Jerry Jeudy has got behind the scenes of not catching those balls in those pivotal games. Only Myles Garrett is the only one of the Cleveland Browns that has received a lucrative additional contract. And that was with the Jordan brand. I know Cleveland. Okay, Cleveland. Hopefully that's Andrew Berry inviting me up to the Cleveland Browns organization within the next 60 days. But besides Myles Garrett and Sheduer Sanders, because if they trade him or not, now they're talking about they don't know if he's going to be QB1 or QB1 next season. Okay, we'll get to that. We'll get to that when we get to that. But as of now, we're going to enjoy the moment. That's Sheduer Sanders. He finished his NFL rookie season. He did not get hurt. And he showed the world what he could do in all of the worst case scenarios. Why wouldn't you keep Sheduer Sanders? You gave him nothing to work with, but he still was able to produce. I counted up the games. I went back and looked at the stats. Sheduer Sanders' record could have been easy. Instead of 2-5, 5-2. Easy. Those additional games we could have won. Hey, but guess what? It may be old news. That's on his record. We're going to remember every detail because that's what we do over here as investors. We're going to remember every detail. But let's say the new Sheduer Sanders fans that will come behind us, they're not going to know none of this. But guess what? That's why videos like this and other videos out there, that's why these videos will be key pivotal moments in history. So nobody will be able to write his history. Because guess what, community? Investors, we did this. We put so much pressure on them, and Cleveland is still breaking. Did y'all hear I ain't gonna call his name. That Jason, that fool Jason up there in the Cleveland Browns. You know he sit on that podcast. He called in the 92.3 saying everything except for calling Sheduer Sanders a slur. He said that he believed that Sheduer Sanders is a good kid, but he shouldn't belong on the team. One of the gentlemen his name is Anthony Lima. And the other gentleman name is Ken. And I love Ken because Ken been nutting up. Ken been nutting up too. Ooh, it's so hard not to play that clip. But, Ken had nutted up two weeks ago. Ken nutted up. Ken went nutted. I'm sorry. Ken went nutted up. Ken is the other gentleman on the show with Anthony Lyman. But he got the round face and everything. But Ken is the gentleman. He nutted up. But Jason Lloyd, I'll say his name. Jason Lloyd called it in that show, said everything. He even had the audacity to bring up the mind things. Who's thinking like that? Who's even? He said, Sheduer Sanders should not be at the Cleveland Browns next year because of all the locker room antics. And so Anthony and Ken was like, what issues are you talking about? They even said, hey, the one that shouldn't be there is Dylan Gabriel, but they was like, what are you talking about? And this Jason Lloyd character, he had the nerve to bring up, I guess he was trying to allude to the circus. They called us the circus when we got over there. He alluded to the meme in the locker room. Who's even thinking about that? But I like when Ken pushed back. Ken Devlin said, hold on, this is enough. The only thing Jason didn't call him was that word. But he was saying everything else that Sheduer Sanders didn't deserve to be on the team. He's not worthy of everything. And Ken basically said he totally disagreed. I want to play that clip, but I'm going to authentic to Tony Talks Investors Insight. I'm going to stay authentic. But the next video, I'm rolling that out. But it's just been crazy. Now let me get back to Teller's wife. So you know how I said that all of these families have been impacted because of Kevin Stefanski and his ability to run wild in the Cleveland Browns organization in 2025? Well, her name is Carly Taylor. I like what she put out there 72 hours ago. She said, when you play stupid games, you get stupid prizes. Oh, I love when she shot fire towards Kevin Stefanski. Kevin Stefanski deserves everything that he's getting right now. Do you know that Cleveland media is still nutting up saying that, letting go of Kevin Stefanski was the biggest mistake they ever had or they will ever make? How? Kevin Stefanski didn't have no head coaching experience. The Cleveland Browns ain't lose nothing in this. The only thing they lost was an additional headache and additional grievances that team is going to file. If no one for the Cleveland Browns organization, 53-man roster, whomever filed grievances against the NFL, I'll be surprised. Somebody has to file a grievance. In order for me to be happy, somebody got to file a grievance. At least a formal complaint. File a complaint, an informal complaint. Somebody got to file something. Because if not, I'm going to keep pushing. Somebody got to file something. And guess what I suggested? Call it Taylor. I said, file that grievances. I said, hint. Go ahead and file that grievances. Because Kevin Stefanski, he did impact Taylor. We don't know what was in those players' contract regarding bonuses and stats and production. Taylor was kept off the field the last 4 games. I know that impacted some of his bonuses. I know that impacted his stats. If he didn't have any bonus in his contract regarding his production this year, I know those missing stats will impact his future contract negotiations. That has already impacted his current stats. That's impacting his livelihood, his family engagements. All the wives just foul. If your husband is on the team, of your significant other's on the team, and they feel like if they file a complaint and they're going to get some type of retaliation, you file the complaint on their behalf. The NFL is not going to do nothing to you. File them complaints. Go ahead and file them grievances. But like I said, but it's 2 white men I must give credit to. It's 2 men I must give credit to. These 2 men, like I said in one of my videos before regarding Mel Kiper, I've never seen a white man go crazy over a situation where a black man was looked over. Mel Kiper been nutting up still. I'm going to be authentic to this video. I'm not going to play no clips or show no screenshots. But the next video I roll out today, I definitely got to show that. Mel Kiper nutting up, Skip Bayless. He's another white man that be going crazy when over the Sheduer Sanders, this black man that has been looked over, mistreated in the NFL. I love that. They going crazy and ham, and I love all them expressions. they letting the NFL, Sheduer Sanders doubters have it. I mean, whoo, this is not over. This is not over because you know, hey, listen, they may be chasing the devils, but the devil's work is still going to be in the background. So ain't no telling what kind of schemes they may coming up for Sheduer Sanders for next season. But guess what? We still going to have that watchful eye. We still going to have our drinks. We still going to have our notes, and we definitely going to have our vests because we vested up. Who they think they playing with? We going to be ready for the next blow. But Kevin Stefanski, as I stated, according to media outlets, that the Atlanta Falcons want to interview Kevin Stefanski. We already know how that's gonna go. I need to go check on Twitter. I need to go see what the Atlanta Falcons fans are saying. Atlanta is one of the most cultured cities in America. And Cam Newton, like I showed proof of, Cam Newton has stated that Kevin Stefanski cannot relate it to cultured black players. What you think Kevin Stefanski go do in Atlanta? He's going to have a meltdown if that is true. Kevin Stefanski. Did you know that Kevin Stefanski also was Adrian Peterson running back coach? But he didn't even coach Adrian Peterson for not even a year? That was a telltale sign. Cam Newton went through all of that resume. I could only play some of Cam Newton's clip because I didn't want to copyright. But Cam Newton went through the whole entire resume of Kevin Stefanski. And the first player that Kevin Stefanski was not able to coach, allegedly, was Adrian Peterson. And then he brought us some other names. Deshaun Watson, Sheduer Sanders. That's why I put in my last video, the NFL need to investigate Kevin Stefanski. Need to investigate him. Allegedly. This situation here was totally unnecessary. It was unfortunate, and it's very sensitive. Very sensitive. Very sensitive. But I had to say something. I had to come out and say something, especially on this situation here, because I know, and I knew, if I didn't, I always learned that silence is agreement. And I had to come out of hiding. I had to say something. I had to say something because I know how it festers. Things like this festers. And if we didn't come out as a community hard like the way that we did, it would have got worse for the next person that came after Sheduer Sanders. That probably didn't have the following or the accolades or the attention. It could have been my son, your son, nephew, cousin, brother, who knows? But because we stood up as a community, all vested up, 365 degrees, the next young man that come to the NFL, they will have the backing of the community. Because now, like I said, we know what the indicators are. And especially if his name is not a Sanders, we definitely will be looking for all these indicators here in the future. So young black men that's coming behind Sheduer Sanders, you need to stand up and give the community. Everyone that's on YouTube that stood up for Sheduer Sanders, you need to stand up and give us applause, baby. Because we stood up for Sheduer Sanders, and we also going to stand up for you. We did this. Vestas, we did this. Vestas, we did this. They know not to play with us no more. They know not to play with our family members no more. Our brothers, cousins, nephews, uncles. A lot of these NFL players got kids. Coming out of college, they got kids, they got families, they got wives, husbands. They know not to play with us no more. And I'm serious, it's a heart attack. Don't play with our family members no more, NFL. Don't do that. Because if we do it for Sheduer Sanders, we definitely gonna do it if we ever find out. I'm shots fired, NFL. I'm so serious. And if you haven't seen my video about Kyren Lacy, because I mean what I say, the injustice that young man went through last year, even though he didn't go to the NFL draft, but last December, I think it was this month, last year, is when the DA in Louisiana had threw out their case. But no one told Kyren Lacy. And that young man, he removed himself from this dimension in April. The same month of the NFL draft. Do you know the pressure that young man was walking around in? I did not mean to go this, but I'm going to let it flow. At the end of January last year, the NFL should have known that that case against Lacy was going to get thrown out. But what they did, they reneged and they pulled back that invitation. All they had to do was call the DA in Louisiana and get an update on that case. He had nothing to do with that accident in Louisiana. He had nothing to do with that accident in Louisiana. But the NFL, yeah, he didn't go to the Columbine. Of course, he didn't get the NFL draft. Was out of his reach. He knew that. And that young man, he removed himself in April, the same month of the draft last year. But it wasn't until October of 2025 that we found out the whole entire thing, that the DA and the judge had threw out everything against Kyren Lacy. And I'm getting emotional, and maybe I got my facts wrong regarding who did what, but I know the judge threw out that case. The judge threw out that case. The judge said he has nothing to do with that accident. It would be, at the end of this month, it would probably be a year that Kyren Lacy would have known that his future was still bright, that he still could pursue his dreams in the NFL if somebody would have just told him. Why his lawyer didn't stay up on the case. Why his lawyer didn't get that information. And to you, the lawyer, Michael someone, if you knew in January that Kyren Lacy case was going to get thrown out, but you wanted to use that buzz in April around the draft to get your name out there, if you decided to hold out and don't inform Kyren Lacy because you wanted a courtroom scene to get your name out there for the publicity, yeah, I hope he comes to you in your dreams every night. No wonder you looked so shook and distraught in October when you released all that evidence. I bet Kyren Lacy was on your conscience day and night and day, the way that you was looking. And to the Lacy family, what I put out there on Twitter Monday morning, those was my true words. I will do a follow-up video about your son. The Sheduer Sanders saga is over. But I'm not going to rest until your son has justice also. Because what they did to your son, especially if that lawyer knew, he could have told him then. The NFL could have said, hey, Kyren Lacy, we got an update on your case. We're going to re-invite you to the Columbine. Just get ready and welcome to the Columbine in March. But that young man, he had to sit around since January and February looking at the Super Bowl. And then in March, he had to look at all the Columbine highlights and just know that could have been me. All he was saying was that could have been me. That could have been me. And then he had to wait and look at the 12th. The NFL draft happened April the 25th. Do you know how the pressure and the depression that that young man was in leading up to the draft? I think it would have just broke his heart even more to be here and see that draft occur. Kyren Lacy. Rest in peace, young man. Rest in peace. To all of the young black men that's coming out of college and has decided to declare for the NFL draft, you let us know if anyone behind the scenes on any team is pulling some type of egregious actions, unfair treatment, executing any type of employment discrimination, executing anything that seems and smell funny. Please let the community know. Please let the community know so we can address this. We can stand 10 toes down just like we did for Sheduer Sanders. Because like I said, Sheduer Sanders activated the community for a reason. And as you know, we coming with power and momentum. So all of those young players that has desires to go into the NFL, please let us know. The community know. Say something. Say something on Twitter. Say something. Have your family members say something so we can address this situation. Because we don't want another Kyren Lacy. We don't want another Keelan in the background. And to the NFL, don't do our family members like this no more. Don't do this. My heart goes out to Kyren Lacy. Kyren Lacy was projected to go round one. He was just that good as a wide receiver. And the significance about that Kyren Lacy story, he removed himself from this dimension. April the 12th. 2 days later, that's when they were scheduled to go to the grand jury. And that lawyer and everybody else was going to let him know that the case was going to be thrown out. 2 days later, if Kyren Lacy would have just waited 2 days later, but because nobody said nothing, and that the pressure on his shoulders, the pressure that he was going through, if Sheduer Sanders didn't have the love, the support, and the community behind him, what if Sheduer Sanders would have turned out to be Kyren Lacy? The NFL, you need to straighten this out. And you need to go back to your collective bargaining agreement with all of these players and put in there a 0% bullying policy, discrimination policy, conflict of interest policy, no tolerance policies for all of this. The NFL, yes, you are entertainment business, but you have the right to protect all players and give all players fair opportunity. What you did this year was totally wrong. Investors, go ahead. I'm sorry, this video turned out to be serious. All right, investors, so I'm going to be coming back with the next video. I'm going to go back. I'm going to regroup, change my energy, come back and give you these videos on Mel Kiper and Skip, the way they've been melting down But all the young men, I would suggest, actually, because how did it just come out that a quarterback, I forgot the young man's name, he's making more money than Sheduer Sanders. He's making more money in 1 year than Sheduer Sanders is making in 4 years in the NFL. So all the young men that has declined the NFL and will not declare for the NFL this year, congratulations. Stay in college. That's where you're going to have the most impact and most influence on your contract. And go ahead and get that money, young man. Because the NFL, like I said, they got issues going over here. And until they get right, I say stay in college. Have fun. Enjoy life. Because as you see, the NFL is not all about football. It's more than football. All right, investors. I'll talk to you later. Tony Talk Vested Insight. All right, I'm heading out.